She's not ignoring you. She's measuring you. And most men fail that test before they even realize it has started. Because the truth is, attraction is not built on kindness. It's built on power. Not the kind of power people usually imagine. Not money, not status, not muscles. Real power is something far quieter, far deeper, and far more dangerous. And over 500 years ago, a political exile sat alone in a small Italian village and wrote down the uncomfortable truths about human nature that most people still refuse to face today. His name was Niccolò Machiavelli. And while history remembers him as a ruthless political thinker, what he really understood was something far more universal. He understood power. The kind of power that shapes kingdoms, destroys leaders, and quietly controls human relationships. If you truly understand what Machiavelli discovered about human behavior, you start seeing the world differently. You start noticing patterns most people miss. You start realizing why some men effortlessly command attention while others spend their lives chasing approval. And once you see these patterns clearly, you cannot unsee them. Most men are raised to believe a simple story about relationships. Be nice, be respectful, be emotionally open, be supportive. Society teaches that these traits will naturally attract women and create lasting love. And on the surface, that advice sounds reasonable. But something strange happens when men follow it blindly. They become confused. They become frustrated. They find themselves wondering why the woman they treated perfectly slowly lost interest. They watch as the man who barely tries seems to attract more attention than they ever could. That contradiction drives many men insane. It feels unfair. It feels confusing. It feels like the rules changed without warning. But the rules never changed. The rules were simply misunderstood. Machiavelli recognized this centuries ago while observing the politics of Renaissance Italy. In the courts of Florence, Rome, and Milan, alliances were fragile, power shifted constantly, and survival depended on understanding human nature without illusions. Machiavelli noticed that people rarely responded to what others said. Instead, they responded to what others represented. And that insight reveals something uncomfortable about attraction. The biggest lie many men grow up believing is that being nice automatically makes them attractive. Now, kindness itself is not weakness. Genuine kindness is actually one of the most powerful traits a person can possess. But kindness without strength is different. Kindness without strength is submission, and submission rarely inspires attraction. Imagine two men. The first man constantly agrees with everyone around him. He laughs at every joke. He apologizes frequently, even when he has done nothing wrong. He avoids disagreement because he fears conflict. He tries desperately to maintain harmony and gain approval. The second man behaves differently. He listens more than he speaks. When he disagrees, he calmly expresses it. When someone crosses a boundary, he addresses it without anger but without hesitation. He does not desperately try to please everyone around him. Now ask yourself a simple question. Which man appears stronger? Which man appears more grounded in himself? The answer is obvious, yet most men behave like the first example because they believe attraction comes from approval. But attraction rarely grows from approval alone. Attraction grows from respect, and respect is not created by submission. Machiavelli wrote a line that shocked readers for centuries. He said that if a ruler must choose between being loved or feared, it is safer to be feared than loved. Many people interpret this statement as cruel or tyrannical, but Machiavelli was not encouraging cruelty. He was describing psychology. Love without respect is fragile. Respect, however, creates stability. In relationships, this principle becomes surprisingly visible. The man who constantly sacrifices his identity to please others often ends up losing the very attraction he hopes to gain. Not because women are cruel or manipulative, but because human psychology instinctively tests strength. Boundaries signal stability. When boundaries disappear, respect slowly erodes. A woman does not consciously decide to disrespect a man who lacks backbone. Instead, something deeper happens on a subconscious level. Humans evolved in environments where survival depended on reliable leadership and emotional stability. A man who cannot hold his ground appears unreliable in that ancient psychological framework, and no amount of modern culture has fully erased those instincts. But Machiavelli's insight about power goes deeper than external behavior. He believed real power came from internal control, the ability to remain calm under pressure, the ability to regulate emotions rather than being controlled by them, the ability to remain steady when others panic. This form of power is subtle, but it shapes every interaction. In relationships, emotional stability becomes one of the most attractive qualities a man can possess, because every relationship eventually encounters emotional turbulence. Arguments happen, misunderstandings appear, feelings fluctuate. Sometimes tension arises from small misunderstandings, sometimes it emerges from deeper fears or insecurities. In these moments, reactions matter more than words. Many men panic when conflict appears. They rush to fix everything immediately. They over-explain themselves. They seek reassurance and validation. But those reactions unintentionally reveal something important. They reveal emotional instability. The man who cannot tolerate uncertainty reveals that his sense of security depends entirely on someone else's approval. Now imagine a different reaction. Imagine a man who remains calm during emotional turbulence. He listens carefully without reacting defensively. He addresses conflict directly, but without losing control of himself. He does not rush to beg for reassurance or validation. He simply stays grounded. That stability communicates something powerful without a single word. It communicates internal strength. It communicates that his identity does not collapse when conflict appears. Machiavelli observed similar patterns among political leaders. The rulers who survived chaotic environments were not always the strongest physically or the wealthiest financially. They were the ones who maintained composure when others panicked. That composure created authority. In relationships, the same principle applies. Emotional control signals security. Security signals strength. And strength quietly builds attraction. Another truth Machiavelli recognized about human behavior involves purpose. Many men assume that devotion to a woman automatically strengthens attraction. They believe that making her the center of their world will demonstrate love and commitment. But something unexpected happens when a man places another person at the center of his life. He unintentionally removes direction from himself. A life without direction feels unstable. A man without purpose begins orbiting around someone else's emotions, attention, and approval. At first, this may feel flattering to the woman involved, but over time it becomes overwhelming. No person wants to feel responsible for someone else's entire sense of meaning. Purpose creates something powerful. Purpose creates gravity. When a man has a mission larger than himself, his life gains structure and momentum. His time becomes valuable. His attention becomes selective. His presence becomes intentional rather than desperate. Machiavelli spent his life studying leaders who shaped history, and nearly every successful leader shared one defining trait: focus. They were moving towards something meaningful. Their lives revolved around goals, responsibilities, and ambitions that existed long before any relationship appeared. Because of this focus, relationships became additions to their lives rather than replacements for direction. When a man has purpose, his presence carries a different energy. He is not searching for someone to complete him. He is inviting someone to join a journey already in motion. And that difference transforms the dynamic completely. Instead of dependency, there is choice. Instead of desperation, there is curiosity. Instead of neediness, there is genuine desire. Machiavelli also understood the psychological power of mystery. Humans are naturally curious creatures. We are drawn to puzzles. We become fascinated by things we cannot immediately explain. Yet many men unintentionally destroy curiosity when they begin dating someone they like. They reveal everything about themselves immediately: their past, their insecurities, their future plans, their deepest emotions. They believe this level of transparency creates instant connection, but connection grows through discovery. Imagine opening a book and reading the entire ending on the first page. The mystery disappears instantly. Without mystery, curiosity fades. Attraction works similarly. When someone reveals themselves gradually, each conversation feels like uncovering a new layer. Interest builds slowly. Emotional investment grows naturally. This does not mean manipulating someone or pretending to be someone you're not. It simply means allowing curiosity to develop naturally, sharing pieces of yourself over time instead of overwhelming someone with everything at once. Machiavelli noticed similar dynamics in politics. Leaders who revealed too much too quickly often lost influence, but leaders who maintained a sense of unpredictability commanded attention. People observed them carefully. They tried to understand them, and that constant attention created power. Another observation Machiavelli made about power involved decisiveness. The world tends to reward movement rather than hesitation. Many men spend enormous amounts of time analyzing situations before acting. They search for the perfect words, the perfect moment, the perfect strategy. But life rarely rewards perfection. Life rewards courage. The man who acts decisively may not always succeed, but he creates opportunities. The man who hesitates often creates nothing at all. This difference explains why bold individuals frequently appear more attractive. It is not because they are flawless, it is because they are willing to act despite uncertainty. Courage communicates confidence, confidence signals leadership, and leadership naturally attracts attention. Perhaps the most difficult lesson Machiavelli's philosophy offers involves the ability to walk away. In politics, alliances were fragile. Leaders who became emotionally dependent on alliances often lost power, because dependency removes leverage. Relationships follow similar dynamics. A man who feels incapable of losing a relationship becomes controlled by fear: fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of abandonment. Those fears slowly reshape his behavior. He begins tolerating disrespect. He ignores problems he should address. He sacrifices his boundaries to avoid losing approval. Ironically, those sacrifices reduce attraction rather than strengthening it. A man who knows he can walk away behaves differently. He does not threaten or manipulate. Instead, he maintains quiet self-respect. If boundaries are repeatedly crossed, he leaves calmly, without drama, without pleading, without anger. This willingness to walk away communicates something powerful. It communicates independence. It communicates self-value. And paradoxically, the man who can walk away often becomes the one who keeps the relationship, because his presence is voluntary, not desperate, and voluntary love feels authentic. Ultimately, Machiavelli's deepest lesson was not about politics at all. It was about self-mastery. Many leaders lost their power not because of external enemies, but because of internal weaknesses. Pride, insecurity, jealousy, fear. Those internal flaws destroyed empires. They also destroy relationships. Because attraction cannot be sustained through manipulation or tricks, it grows from character. A man who develops discipline, emotional control, and purpose naturally becomes powerful in his presence. He does not chase validation constantly. He does not reshape himself to please everyone. Instead, he builds a life aligned with his values and goals. When a man reaches this stage of self-development, something remarkable happens. He stops asking the question most men obsess over. He stops asking what women want, because the answer becomes obvious. Women, like all humans, are drawn to strength they can trust. They are drawn to purpose they can believe in. They are drawn to stability that makes life feel secure rather than chaotic. Machiavelli spent his life studying the nature of power and kingdoms and politics, but hidden inside his writings is a truth that applies far beyond politics. The man who conquers himself gains a form of power that no one else can easily take away. And this brings us back to the beginning. She wasn't ignoring you, she was measuring you. Measuring your stability, your purpose, your emotional control, your boundaries. And once you truly understand that reality, everything changes. You stop chasing approval. You stop trying to impress everyone around you. Instead, you start building the kind of life that naturally attracts the right people into it. Because the moment you become a man with direction, discipline, and self-respect, the entire dynamic shifts. Attraction stops being something you chase. Attraction becomes something that finds you. And that is the brutal truth Machiavelli understood centuries ago. The greatest power any man can achieve is not control over others, it is control over himself.